Right, that was topic 7. Just review topic 7 again. E-commerce and electronic and business. E-commerce and e-business. Right, so they start off by giving you an overview of what do we mean by electronic commerce or e-commerce or e-business. Firstly, by distinguishing between pure and partial electronic commerce, which depends on the degree of digitization. Digitization just means how much of it is electronic based, right? So how much of your product, your services, and your business is electronic based. So obviously, the old traditional model is called a brick and mortar organization. Brick and mortar means you have a physical storefront and your business and your product is physical in nature. It's tangible, right? That's the traditional one. We're all used to. Virtual organizations are literally only existing in the virtual world. In other words, electronically, right? So you physically don't have, you physically have to have people working for you in some instances, but you don't even have fixed business premises. So you're allowing people to work from wherever they are. They can be mobile or they can be stationary wherever they want to be. But the business itself only exists on the internet. Literally. There is no other physical identification or presence for them, which gives them an advantage. Right. So for instance, one of the advantages you would have seen throughout this book is, well, it can be disadvantages as well, is things like government regulations. Right. So government regulations include things like taxation, for instance, VAT. So what is the law about VAT? Well, in South Africa, it says if you're running a business, a registered business for VAT, you must charge VAT. Right? So you're adding it onto your price. That's what the law says. You must add it onto your price. It's value added tax. For you as a business, there's an advantage, obviously, that you can claim that VAT back. And it's added because the customer in the end is the one that pays the VAT, not the business. But if you're going to add it to your price, it means you have a disadvantage because now your price is higher than your competitor. But if you are a virtual organization, where do you exist? You only exist on the internet. You don't have a physical presence. So you could physically be somebody that opens a business in South Africa on the internet. You could have an international bank account, like for instance PayPal, which is not South African, meaning you have physically you have no presence in South Africa, although you as a person are in South Africa. But the internet is not a place, it's not a fixed place, which means by law you don't have to charge VAT because you don't have a presence. You're not in the country, therefore you're not actually subject to its regulations. So anybody that buys something online, you would have noticed you don't pay VAT. You seen that? Right? There's no, when they go to the basket and they give you a price, there's no VAT there. Because of that little technical issue, you are not in a country, you're on the internet. So whose VAT are you then supposed to charge them? You're in South Africa, you're buying things on Amazon, but where are you? You're in South Africa, you're not in America. Because Amazon is an American company. Right. Please keep quiet while I'm talking. You are welcome to come and talk. If you want to present, you can come and stand here in front and talk to the class. Do you want to come present the class? Then keep quiet. Otherwise, you can come if you want to talk. You can literally come and present the class for us. That's the only options to you. If you want to talk, you come talk here in front, or you keep quiet. Right. Then they talk about click and mortar organization, which is a combination of the two. So you have a physical presence somewhere, but you're also selling your products online. Virtual organizations, as I said, even the product is electronic. Right? In other words, you're selling something that's digital in nature, like a music, any entertainment media. But take note, what are the types of e-commerce? Right? There's a difference there. I'm telling you now, read my lips. There's a difference between types of e-commerce and business models for e-commerce. You hear me? If you didn't hear me, then you can't raise your hand because you didn't hear what I said. But there's a difference between types of e-commerce and business models of e-commerce. Right. So types of e-commerce is this little slide. Right. You should know it by now. Business to business, B2C, business to consumer, business to business, it's B2B. The abbreviation for that, consumer to consumer, is C2C, business to employee, B2E, e-government, and mobile commerce. They have various examples of each one of those in the book. Business to consumer is also generally called e-tailing, which is an abbreviation for electronic retailing. Retailing means I'm selling a product to you. Right? That's retailing. I'm offering it at a price, you're buying it, that's retailing. So on the internet, it's called e-tailing. That's the best known one is e-tailing or business to consumer, because that's what you are dealing with as a consumer. That's your Takealot, that's your Amazon, that's your eBay, those type of things. Right? Business to business, which is actually the biggest component or revenue component of e-commerce, business to business, is what you don't deal with normally. And that is what businesses do between themselves. Right? When I'm a business and I'm doing business on the internet using e-commerce, it means I'm buying my product from my suppliers online, and I'm doing all the payments for that online as well. And you as the consumer don't even see it. The biggest part of all of that is banking or the finance industry, right? The finance market, right? The biggest amount of revenue, the biggest sums that are in business is taking place in business to business. Vast amounts of money that is transferred between businesses on a daily basis. Consumer to consumer, you would have maybe dealt with that as well, is where you're buying and selling between customers or consumers. And then business to employee, obviously we want to provide these services, electronic services to our employees as well. You have examples of that as well. The recent movements in the HR environment in the Defence Force is that you go on the internet and you do your leave applications on there electronically. You can see your ERP5 on there and various other services that's available to you there. E-government, an example of that in South Africa is when you're doing your income tax, you do it through the SARS web portal. And then mobile commerce, very popular now and becoming more popular as the days go by, is using mobile devices. In other words, it is tailored for your mobile device, this buying and selling of goods. Then e-commerce business models, there's a table in the book which defines all of these as well. Online direct marketing, electronic tendering, name your own price, find the best price, affiliated marketing, viral marketing, group purchasing, online auctions, product customization, deep discounters, membership, and bartering. Right, so take note of those. Those are the business models. In other words, when you are deciding you're going to do electronic commerce, being an e-business, you must decide which model I'm going to use to actually generate my money, my revenue. You must decide that before you start. Not just say I'm going to do everything. Right, so you decide, okay, I'm going to do online direct marketing. In other words, my marketing strategy is going to make me money. An example of that is, and you can choose more than one of these. An example of that is, you go to takeout, for instance. What do you see on the sides of or whatever you're buying on the screen? You're seeing advertisements, right? Advertisements is big business. That's marketing. Big business. In other words, I'm on my website, I'm marketing something for somebody else, and they are paying me to do that. Right? So those advertisements are not placed there for free. Somebody pays you to put that on your website. So you're making actually money out of marketing. Tendering. What is tendering? South Africa, you should know that. If you are a business and you want a big service, then you put it on a tender. So there's an advertisement that says, I want the following service to be rendered to me. And then certain people come to you and they say to you, I'm willing to pay, or I'm willing to do this for you at the following price. And the best price wins, normally. Right, so the guy who can deliver that service to you is the one that's doing it sometimes for more, but at the best price or at the best quality. Name your own price. Is I'm on this portal, I'm naming the price that I'm willing to pay that, and the guy who actually says I'm willing to pay the highest price, almost like an auction, he gets the whatever that product is. Find the best price. There's a portal which does it for you. You will tell it you want the following product, and it must find the best one for you at the best price. So an example in South Africa, limited example, is Price Check. Right? There is a service on the internet, and the internet service which does price check for you. Find the best price for you. Affiliated marketing, again, affiliated marketing is I have an agreement with another business. I'm going to place my advertisement on yours, and you in turn place your advertisement on my website as well. That's affiliated marketing. We are affiliated, and therefore, in the end, I don't have to pay for my advertisement with you, but in turn, you will place yours on my website as well. Viral marketing is where it's word of mouth. Viral marketing physically means word of mouth. In other words, you're asking people to spread the news about your products and your services and your business to their friends and associates. Right. So many of these online businesses have a function where they ask you, do you want to tell your friends? And then they ask you for contacts where they can send advertisements of their business to. Group purchasing works on the basis that the more volume you buy, the cheaper the product becomes, right? You've heard of that? Economy of scale. In other words, if you buy a lot, that product should become cheaper. Right. And group purchasing works on that principle. So we as a group, we decide we're going to buy this product. And because we are 50 that buys it, now we've got a volume that we're buying, and therefore that becomes cheaper per item. Product customization. Customization means I'm taking the product, I'm adapting it for the needs of the customer. So not a lot of businesses can do this because it physically means you have to adapt your product as the guy orders it. Right. Big purchases, normally that's on big items, that's normally the case. For instance, a car. You're buying a new car. What do? You must be able to customize it. That's what car purchase is based on. You want it a certain color, you want the following features on it before you buy it. Right, that's on new car. Right, now, if you buy these things, buy cars online, you can do it these days. That provider, that manufacturer will ask you, what do you want to see in this car of yours? And you customize it before you buy. Deep discounters just means that because you are buying a lot of a product over extended time, you should get a discount. Discounts work that way. Is the more loyal you are, In other words, the more you buy over an extended period, the more loyal you are, and therefore you should get a discount from it. That's how business works. Membership models, where you pay a fixed monthly fee. For instance, the entertainment industry, that's a good example of it. South Africa, you can log on to most of these entertainment websites and have a membership. Right? So our own example, DSTV, is a good example. You're paying a membership per month, right? And you get a certain product for that price that you're paying. Right? And that is how they work. That's a membership model. You can choose to end the membership and then you just end your service that they are providing to you. Bartering system. What is bartering? It's not bartending, it's bartering. Right? Bartering is the oldest form of business. There is bartering. What is that? What's the oldest form of business? No, it's not what you think. You think of an example. Oh, ancient times. How did they have money? Before money. So how did they do business? Right, it still exists. You exchange something for something else. I have a sheep, you have a cow. I'm saying, okay, I'm going to give you 10 sheep for 1 cow. That's bartering. But it exists still on the internet as well. Bartering portal where you exchange products. Right, so you say, I have the following product. Who's willing to give me 10 of your products for it? Right, and that's how it works. Auctions, very important one. Auctions, very active one amongst customers and business. So auction is, I have a product and I'm asking who's willing to give me the highest price for the product. And I bid on something. So the customers bid on a specific product and the highest price or the highest payer gets the product in the end. But there's examples of that. And then they have 2 examples of forward auction and reverse auctioning. It's just that system of providing a product versus bids can be reversed. So you can say, I have the following bid, who's willing to give me a product for that price? That's a reverse auction. In other words, I first tell you what the bid is, and then I get the product for that price, right? Forward auctions is you are paying forward. In other words, you are first doing a bid, and then you're getting the product in there. Benefits of e-commerce, benefits to organization, customers, and society, and limitations of e-commerce. Just get the page in the book. Benefits and limitations on page 172. Please have a look through that. It is not limited to that, but yes. Sorry, what did you say? Yes.
I'm asking for something from Theo Mangwane.
Oh.
I'm asking for something from Theo Mangwane.
Okay, what did you want to ask him?
I was asking him to please borrow me my book because he brought the smaller one.
Oh, okay. Give her a book, please. All right. So physically, if you go through that paragraph, there's some examples of benefits. It benefits organization by making national and international markets more accessible and by lowering the cost of processing, distributing, and retrieving information. So the benefits are mainly concerned with the traditional way of doing business without the internet versus the way we're doing it now with the internet. And it's very logical if you think about it. So now your market is not just local, it's not just in South Africa anymore. You are buying and selling to customers that's all over the world. Right, in theory. There might be some things that limit you, but the benefits is, in general, is that your market increases manifold. So take note that if you ever want to open an electronic business, e-business, it would imply that you have to sell to anybody that's on the internet, and that somebody can be anywhere in the world. Right, so automatically you think, oh, big bucks, there's a lot of customers that's going to buy from me, but there's limitation. Limitations normally have to do with the physical means by which we transfer these products from you to the customer. South African example is if I want to send something overseas, it has to go through various processes. Right? That's involved there, because it's then as a physical product and it goes through various mechanisms to actually charge you for that. So there's export taxes, there's export costs involved. There's actually the transport cost involved. So then it becomes not so much viable anymore as the original one where you're only selling to local people. Right? So it makes it more easier in some ways, but it makes it more difficult in other areas. So just remember, you cannot pick and choose your customers on the internet here. You don't know where they are located. Right, so either you're going for the full warranty, in other words, you're going for electronic commerce all over the world, or you're staying local, which means you are going to have to sell only local, meaning that the internet is not necessarily a viable option. You can still have your payment mechanisms partially on the internet, but advertising, marketing, and selling your product must then be limited to how you do physically inside it. And obviously, there's benefits to the customers as well. Now you have a customer that can buy or sell, they can buy something from anywhere in the world, in theory, which is nowadays, it is very viable in South Africa. So local businesses find it now very difficult to compete. You can imagine you opening a store, something similar to Macro, where you're buying and selling physical products, and you have to compete with somebody that's in China who can deliver it much cheaper than you and almost at the same time limitations as you. So now the local business doesn't seem that viable anymore, and the competition is that much higher for businesses that's on the internet. Right, so unfair, so some might say unfair competition must be regulated, but in a free market system, it means you cannot regulate. You regulate it, you're killing the local business as well. So there's a catch-22 here. So there's benefits to the customers. That's also a limitation for the business. Benefits to society, well, that's debatable. For society as a whole, how would they benefit from e-commerce? Well, now you have in remote areas, in theory, you could have goods and services available that wouldn't be available otherwise. And imagine in a far rural town in South Africa, as long as they have access to the internet, they can order anything. In theory, right? As long as it can be delivered to them, they can order anything. They're not reliant on somebody having a long supply chain to get it to them. They can actually buy it very quickly on the internet. So there is benefits to society. However, sometimes that benefit to society might mean that you have access to information access to goods that you normally would not have had, which would have been to your benefit. So some products that was not so sold previously in remote areas. That could be to your detriment. Limitations of e-commerce, technology limitations, obviously it requires you to have internet access. So internet access is becoming more cheaper these days. However, South Africa is very expensive in that sense still. Internet access is very expensive if you using only purveyor type of data. So if you're paying for your data, it becomes very expensive in South Africa. Other international models is that you're not paying for your data, you're paying for data access. You have a contract, you're not paying for the data. In those environments, it is very conducive for e-business. In South Africa still, we have a very high data cost, which is a limitation. And then obviously the devices that you have to do this. As a customer, you can do it using only your mobile device, in theory. But as a business, there's some very definite technology, physical hardware requirements for it. Right, and then non-technology limitations, obviously, people have to be used to using these channels of buying. So that's one of the biggest stumbling blocks for businesses that's e-business oriented, is to convince their customers to do it actually online. The people are still very hesitant to do it sometimes, especially as far as security is concerned. Like your banking details. You ask the normal user out there, and you ask them, do you do internet payments? They'll tell you, no, but it's so unsafe. Because in the news, it is portrayed as unsafe. Yes, if you do it unsafely, it is unsafe. So if you go to an ATM and you're standing in a place that's, there's a high crime area, and you're just opening up and you're telling people, hey, come and help me to do my ATM transaction, that's unsafe. So why would you act unsafely when it comes to the internet law? But still, the statistics show that most fraud is not done using your personal details on the internet. Yeah. Right. The attempts are the highest on the internet because it's easier, but still physical fraud and physical theft are ways the actual crimes using your personal banking details. As long as you keep it safe, there are certain things that you learned in SIS 114, certain measures that you can implement to make it safer for you. Right, so that's one of the non-technical limitations that is the hesitation of users to actually do it. The type of business to commerce, business consumer electronic commerce, they talk about electronic storefronts and electronic malls. That's just the platforms that they're using, and most of you are used to it by now. Online service industry, online services, meaning that the service is only available on the, well, it's physically available, but also on the internet. The example, for instance, is you can pay for services on the internet these days for most things that you want to do. Disintermediation just means that now with the internet, we are taking away jobs from people. That's what it boils down to. Disintermediation. We are eliminating the guy in the middle. That's an intermediary. We are eliminating them. So if you have a e-business, it means that you can buy from somebody. Your supplier could be somebody in another country, which means you're bypassing the South African supply chain. And that's disintermediation, meaning that now that physical business in South Africa is losing money. The intermediary, that supplier. And obviously in South Africa, it means your jobs are lost. So there's positives to it, meaning that we can have more business, but it means that other types of business are going to lose money. Somebody's going to have to be a loser. That's what we call disintermediation. We all know cyber banking and virtual banks. There are banks that are available only on the internet. They don't have a physical presence, and you can have an account with them, and they are not necessarily in South Africa. And in cyber banking, all of us these days do online banking. That's a form of cyber banking. Issues in e-tailing, in other words, business to customer, channel conflict, multi-channeling, and order fulfillment. So channel conflict means that I can sell on different channels. I can have a physical store where I'm selling, and I can sell it online. So that's two different channels, and they can actually be in competition with each other, which is not always a good thing within your own business that you have competition between departments. I can do multi-channeling. In other words, I can sell it on multiple platforms and multiple means. Right. So you can see again, now we're in conflict with each other in our own business. And then order fulfillment. How do I get this order to the customer? They can very easily order and pay online, but I must still get the product to them. And that's called order fulfillment. And I have to have measures and processes in place to actually deliver something. So the model now is very easy. You can use various courier companies to do that. You fulfill it, but it adds to your pricing. What are online advertising? The examples and methods they're talking about in the book there is banners, pop-up ads, pop-under ads, permission marketing, and viral marketing. So what are banners? whenever you go to an e-commerce site, you would have seen on the margins of that web page, they have what they call banner advert. It's just a part of the screen is dedicated only to advertisement. That's called banner advertisement. Pop under and pop up advertisements, very irritating. So if you're on a site, you move your cursor over a certain area on the page and this advertisement pops up. You're good e-business, you will not allow that. But some do. It's very irritating. This advertisement pops up without you actually asking for it, pops up on your screen, and before you can proceed with your transaction, you must close it first. Very irritating. Pop under just means it pops up under the active window. So it's in the background. You have to close it again before you can do anything. Permission marketing is where they ask you for permission to actually market it to your contact. You're giving the business access to your contact list, and they send advertisements out to them. And then viral marketing is they ask you for this advertisement to your contact. So that they're asking your permission first, and then they send you. Versus viral marketing is where you have the option of actually distributing that advertisement. Right. 8 types of websites for advertising: portals, search engines, commerce sites, entertainment sites. I'm sure all of you have visited most of these types of advertisement sites. We would have seen examples of it. But even your search engine that you're using, most of them are driven by advertisements, which pops up when you do a search on a certain portals. A portal is a specific dedicated website that is for a specific purpose, which provides you the services that you need. It's called a portal. 8 types of sites. Further on, it's community sites, communications, net, news, weather, sports, and gaming. All of you would have seen examples of it. B2B sell-side marketplaces. The sell-side marketplace is dedicated only to selling between businesses. Right, so you wouldn't have seen examples of this, but these sites and portals are only open to businesses who are registered. Buy-side marketplaces, again, it is portals and websites that are dedicated to to buying between businesses. So it's dedicated to buying versus selling. And then exchanges, again, exchanges is a bartering system where we're exchanging goods and services for other goods and services between businesses. We look at the 4 types of exchanges that you get: electronic exchanges, vertical exchanges, horizontal exchanges, and functional exchanges. Excuse me. Electronic payment mechanisms, important section in the book. This book is how do we do actually payments online. Electronic checks, not that common these days anymore. A check is where I physically make out an order which is I owe you a certain amount. When you take it to your bank, the bank will exchange it for actual money. Credit cards, all of you are familiar with credit cards. And purchasing cards, there's a difference between a credit card and a purchasing card. Credit card allows you to go over your limit, whilst a purchasing card has a certain value on it. You can only buy for that value. And then electronic cash. Electronic cash, various forms of that these days as well. Not that commonly used in South Africa, but it is physically an electronic version of the cash. It's only available as a purchasing amount that you can use for purchasing, nothing else. Some ethical and legal issues now. Privacy issues is a concern on the internet during e-business, is that business is supposed to keep your information private. That's in South Africa. There is There is laws that govern it, called govern this. It's called the Copy Act, which is supposed to guarantee you privacy of your information via business. Disintermediation, again, is some people might lose their jobs and their businesses because of e-business. Other things that's legal issues specific to e-commerce fraud on the internet. That's obviously that's a big worry to everybody. It's in the news as well. Domain names, using domain names for certain things, like for instance, there was various examples of where domain names were used for businesses to actually do fraudulent transactions. That's some very prominent things that happen. That's you can see in the news as well. Domain tasting, where I'm using your domain name for my own purposes. So I'm registering your domain name as my own. Right. So what does it mean? If I'm going on the internet, I'm looking for your business, I'm actually landing at a fraudulent business that is doing domain tasting. Cyber squatting, I'm squatting on your specific domain name for a specific reason. Normally that is for cyber crime. Some taxes and other fees that might be applicable to the internet or not applicable. So it gives you an unfair business advantage because you're not subject to the same taxes as the business that's local. And then copyright issues, especially with electronic goods and services, or especially electronic goods, there's copyright issues that might arise because of it. But so knowingly or unknowingly by the business, if they're selling an electronic product, there's still a copyright issue involved. And I must maintain the copyright laws of that specific country when I'm doing it. Right, and that was chapter 7. Any questions about chapter 7? You are writing semester